Well, John Terrett is live for us in Mississippi. John, I can see there's quite a few people on that beach behind you. Aren't they in the least bit worried?
I know. Well, we are slightly in the early stages of this hurricane, to be fair, Shuli, and the people of Biloxi and Gulfport, Mississippi, where we are, have come down onto the beach and onto the boardwalk to experience what the outer bands of a hurricane going through are like. And it's funny because one minute you get brilliant sunshine and then you get driving rain, and of course the wind is building up all the time. But Isaac is now a Category 1 hurricane. There was some doubt that he would make it that far, but he is a Category 1. And don't be fooled into thinking that, oh, well, Hurricane Katrina 7 years ago was Category 4 when she came ashore. This is only Category 1. It's a very dangerous storm. It's got to be taken seriously, because the problem is Isaac is moving across the Gulf of Mexico very, very slowly. And so when she gets here to Mississippi and New Orleans and further on into Louisiana, she's likely to sit above those places for quite some time, bringing very high winds of at least 75 miles an hour, gusting 125 miles an hour, and driving rain. So we're worried about flooding again, and we're worried about the wind knocking down buildings and trees and structures, Shuli.
And John, I know that there are several mandatory evacuation orders in Mississippi and Louisiana, but a lot of people don't want to leave their homes. How are the authorities dealing with that?
That's a very good point. They, in Mississippi, have issued, I think it's 2 mandatory evacuation orders. I believe there are 2 mandatory evacuation orders up the coast in New Orleans as well. And it's a funny thing, because a mandatory evacuation order doesn't mean that you actually have to leave your home. What it means is that the police are mandated by the authorities to go and knock on every door and plead with people and say, look, please, will you leave? Because you're in a very dangerous area, at risk from flooding and high winds and falling trees and things. If they say no, then the police can't do anything about it if they're in their own home, unless they have young children with them or if they have very, very elderly people. So what they do, the police told me, is they call it toe tagging. They toe tag somebody and they say, okay, look, if you're going to stay, you must understand that should anything go wrong for you, we will not come back and rescue you. You will be on your own. And then the police come back several weeks later and give them a good talking to. But usually common sense prevails and no one actually gets prosecuted. But earlier today here in Gulfport, Mississippi, which was one of the hardest hit areas during Katrina, we went to a brand new evacuation shelter. This is the first hurricane that it has been tested with, and there we met a number of people, one in particular who you're going to meet now, who explained why she felt much safer to be in the shelter. And this is Megan from the Red Cross. She's a volunteer. She's very happy to be doing the work she's doing. Take a look.
We realized, we in the county and the state and federal officials realized, that we needed some solely evacuation shelters, not necessarily schools and things like that. We have several levels of shelters. So we start here, and as the need grows, we can open shelters. This is a great facility with a backup generator. We have a very strong facility, so it can withstand very high winds. I feel safe, and I'm sure that these residents will be safe.
John, I know you said that Isaac's not going to be as strong as Katrina was 7 years ago, but how worried are people in New Orleans?
Well, I haven't been there, because I've been traveling up the coast from Alabama and into Mississippi for the last couple of days. But according to people who are there, some people in New Orleans are not taking it terribly seriously. They're still having a whodad party on Bourbon Street. And that's understandable, because that's the kind of city that New Orleans is. They're going to be testing those new levees and that big barrier, which is something like 13 miles, almost 20 kilometers outside the city, for the first time with this hurricane. But here in Mississippi, they are taking it seriously, because they lost a lot here. The beachfront is still wrecked 7 years down the road from Katrina. And although you see people behind me, they won't be here for much longer, and they will be staying close to home, just in case this is worse than it's forecast to be, Shuli.
Okay, John, thanks very much indeed for that. John Terrett on a shortly to become very windy beach in Mississippi there.